News.
We all have a friend like Evan.
Guys, could you spot me a few bucks for the game?
But what happens when it's time for Evan to pay up?
I don't have it right now, but you know I'm good for it.
Nobody likes a deadbeat, and chronic deadbeat Evan McMullen has raised millions of dollars for his special interest groups. But in true deadbeat form, instead of paying off the nearly $700,000 in debt from his presidential campaign, he took the money and paid his own company millions of dollars. Liberty Champions PAC is responsible for the contents of this ad.
Elements has delicious lunch specials, 2 for $30, or the new soup, salad, and bread special for just $10. It's tasty and quick. Elements' lunch menu is full of scrumptious items prepared with a personal touch. Wood-fired pizzas are an excellent choice that include barbecue chicken and the bee's knees. The fresh battered halibut fish and chips with seasoned fries is always a hit. And don't forget the fan-favorite Munster Burger. Casual or professional. Open Monday through Thursday, 11:30 to 8 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11:30 to 9 p.m. Visit theelementsrestaurant.com for reservations today.
News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Governor Spencer Cox on stations throughout the state in partnership with the Utah Broadcasters Association.
And welcome to Direct Link with Governor Spencer Cox. He is with us tonight. We're live in Cedar City at the Southern Utah Museum of Arts. Tell us why you're in Cedar City tonight, Governor. I know we've got a conference going on.
We do indeed, Tim, and this is really exciting for us. We're trying to do multiple things at the same time, and we're using lots of technology. So we'll see. I can't hear the audience, and I don't know if they can hear me, but I'm seeing heads nod. So we are here at the One Utah Rural Summit. We do these One Utah Summits twice every year, one on the Wasatch Front, one in rural Utah. We're doing this one, of course, here at SUU, and it's a big week for us. We've got people coming from all over the state, really focusing on rural issues, and we decided to try something new. We've been doing this radio program now for well over a year. We tried to have a live studio audience, and
we got one.
We do indeed. You maybe can hear them cheering. I've got we've got microphones set up. I'm holding a microphone. I've also got a headset on. So it's a little uncomfortable, but I think we can make it work.
Well, we love to make governors uncomfortable once in a while. It just keeps them on their toes.
It's just part of the job, I think.
So what's the goal of the One Utah Conference? Why does it in existence?
Well, this actually started as a rural conference. It's been going on for over 30 years. And many of us have been here for decades. I see some heads nodding out there. Certainly I have. And it's always been focused on rural economic development. But as you know, I'm from rural Utah and really wanted to put more of a spotlight on rural Utah and the opportunities that exist there. And so thanks to Stephen Lisaby, who is my senior advisor for rural affairs.
And he's here.
He is here. This is the first time we've ever had a position like that. He's helped to really grow this in a big way. And we want to include students. And the thing I'm most happy about tonight is we have students that are here. These students come from all over the place. They come from Utah, from other places, from rural Utah, from the Wasatch Front, and it's going to be interesting to hear the questions that they have as well. And I'm excited to hopefully be able to provide some answers tonight.
Okay, and just for anyone that's tuned in tonight outside of Cedar City, we've got folks from all over the state that are going to come and ask some questions. So I think I'd like to start with Greg Miles. If you're here, Greg's going to come up and he's got something he'd like to talk to you about. Greg, where are you from?
I'm from Altamont, Utah, Duchesne County Commissioner, and we are so appreciative of the governor's great work on transportation. He's led the charge. We're proud of the great transportation we have in the state of Utah and grateful for the improvements that UDOT has made to our roads in the Uinta Basin over the years. Just curious, Governor, what you think is the biggest transportation problem on the horizon?
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner, for that question. We talk a lot about transportation, and infrastructure is so important. I want to give a shout out to the legislature. I know governors and legislatures often mix like oil and water, but in this case, I actually like our legislature, and we get along really well. They have been so supportive of putting additional money into infrastructure. In fact, the last two sessions, we've had more infrastructure funding than any other time. We set a record last year, and then we set a new record this year. So there are different transportation area issues in different parts of the state. Clearly along the Wasatch Front, it's growing so quickly that the roads, there's congestion. It's hard to keep up. Now, we know we can't just keep building out those roads. So So one of the changes we made was to give UDOT more authority over projects affecting UTA, so that they're actually working together, so that mass transit we can expand, give better opportunities for people along the Wasatch Front. In rural Utah, there's a couple issues. One, especially in the basin, it's important. Rail transport is so important. We've known this. I actually found some articles back in the 1890s talking about trains in the Uinta Basin and how important this is. So I'm very proud of the work that you all have been doing, that we've been doing, working with the federal government to get that rail done, and we're very excited. I went to D.C. to lobby the to lobby the administration. They came out here. We worked with them. We got the approvals. There will probably be some litigation, because there's always litigation, and hopefully we can work through that. But I believe we need to start thinking bigger. I really do. There's a high-speed rail has been on my mind for a long time, and I would love nothing more than to have high-speed rail coming down here to southern Utah from the Wasatch Front. We announced just this week.
I was going to ask, the Boise train.
Yeah, we're having some discussions. We've opened discussions. Our Department of Transportation with Idaho and Nevada, looking at what it would take to get high-speed rail from Boise to Salt Lake to Las Vegas, and of course points in between. So I believe we can do that. Now, there's also another very frustrating article that came out this week that talked about high-speed rail in California and how many billions of dollars they've spent on high-speed rail and have nothing to show for it, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars being spent, and they haven't done anything. And one of the frustrating parts about what's happening in California is that it's mostly government that's gotten in the way of that, and litigation, and of course some other things. But as I see our amazing Senate president just walked in, he knows this, and that is, hello, President Adams, say hi. They can't see you on the radio, but they can see you here live. He just waved. Look, there was high-speed rail is not rocket science, right? It's train science, I guess, but it's not rocket science. We have high-speed rail in Europe. Have any of you in the crowd ever been to Europe and ridden on a train? Yeah. Lots of hands go up. In Asia, they have high-speed rail, right? In Japan, they have high-speed rail. You can do this stuff. We used to lead the world when it comes to building, and now there was a company from France who helped build high-speed rail in France, who was advising California on their high-speed rail, and they actually left. They said, we can't handle the dysfunction in California, so we're going to go build high-speed rail in Northern Africa where there's less dysfunction. Now, think about that a little bit. Less dysfunction in Northern Africa than in California. I believe that we can build, and I believe that we can build here in Utah. And I believe if we're smart about it, we bring the best thinkers together, we get government, we get the dysfunction out of the way, that we can actually do something big. So I'm really hopeful. I think I look forward to some opportunities, and I think we need to start thinking bigger than we have in the past.
All right.
Thanks for that question.
Thank you, Governor. We appreciate that. We're going to go and get a break in for our good stations along the network listening. 2 minutes here, and we'll be back. It's Direct Link with Governor Cox here on the Utah Broadcasters Association.
You're in the market to buy a home and dreaming of a new home you can fill with new memories. But homes just aren't in your budget. Or are they? Visionary Homes wants you to know you don't have to buy a used home. Buy new. Buy now with Visionary Homes. As a trusted award-winning Utah home builder, Visionary Homes understands that your home is the center of your life, bringing friends and family together, creating memories you'll cherish forever. Buy new. Buy now. VisionaryHomes.com.
Visionary Homes.
Clean it up and get it out before the snow flies. Don't wait another winter. Let DD Auto and Salvage pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy and fast to get rid of your junker vehicles by paying you the most money possible. Pickup is available. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204 today.
See store for details.
High school sports are as American as apple pie. And going to a game or meet is a chance to see the stars of tomorrow shine today. But as anybody who's ever attended a high school sporting event in Utah knows, you can't have the stars without the stripes. High schools are currently looking for new officials in almost every sport. Who looks good in stripes? Anybody looking for a way to stay connected to a sport they love. If you like the idea of giving back to your community while earning a few extra bucks, chances are you'd look good in stripes too. We want to hear from you. We need to hear from you. No officials means no games. No stripes means no stars. And what kind of America would that be? Utah needs more high school officials. Go to highschoolofficials.com to sign up or learn more. That's highschoolofficials.com.
Local news and the best talk. News Talk KVNU.
The Utah Broadcasters Association. This is Direct Link. Governor Spencer Cox in Cedar City tonight for the One Utah conference that's going on. Governor, you said you wanted to talk to a student. We have a student from SUU here. Candace, go ahead and ask your question for Governor Cox.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, what's a piece of advice you would give college-age students who are interested in politics and are getting ready to enter their careers?
Great, Candace. Thank you for the question. My first advice is to run away. No, I'm just kidding. Don't run away. Whatever you do, don't run away. We need more of you to get interested and involved in politics. So I get asked this question quite frequently, and what I usually do is tell students to do one of two things: find an issue that you're passionate about, or find a candidate that you're passionate about, somebody that you like, somebody that you believe in, somebody that matches your values, and then find a way to get involved with one of those two things. And it's actually easier than you think. I remember when I became a legislator, I thought that immediately my inbox and my phone would be filled up with constituents who really wanted to talk to me about the issues that they were passionate about. And I waited and waited and waited and nothing. Now my inbox did fill up. It filled up with mass emails from groups and people that were not living in my district, and they were all form emails. So let me tell you, when you get 500 form emails from no one that lives in your district, it's not very persuasive. In fact, it kind of sends you the other way. You think, maybe I'd be better off voting against this or whatever the issue is. But when I got an actual call, or an actual personalized email from someone in my district, I was excited and I engaged. I had students reach out to me, and I would actually have them come into my office and sit down, and we would talk about the issue that was important to them. And I will be honest, I actually changed my mind on a couple issues because I had a conversation with somebody. You have to realize that our legislators they will pass around 500 new laws every session in 45 days. There will be almost 1,200 bill files introduced. Those are so many issues, and it is impossible to give every one of those issues, every one of those new laws or proposals all that time. So they're going to focus on the things that are important to the people that they represent. And if they find out that there's something important to you, they're going to want to listen to you. And that's how you can get involved. You really can reach out and then just look for opportunities to volunteer. And not just that, but on every one of our campuses in the state, there are opportunities to do amazing internships. We do paid internships in the governor's office, which to help for students who need a paid internship. If you've never done a legislative internship, they're incredible. I mean, you are right in the thick of it, and you are making a big difference. And so those are some really unique ways to get involved. And I'm just here to tell you, I love this younger generation, and I love the way you see the world. I'm so proud of the work that you're doing. And I often tell young people that we're expecting you to solve all the problems that we're creating. So no pressure. You can do it. Thank you for the question.
Let's go out to the base, and if we can, Irene, are you here? Yes, you are. Irene's with us all the way from Roosevelt. And what's your question for the governor?
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here with you, Governor. And I'm one of your greatest admirers because you think out of the box. So I look to you as the younger generation. And
I can raise my hand there too. Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're there changing the paradigm. And one of the things that you've done is open up Utah government jobs to rural Utahns, and they don't have to relocate to Salt Lake to take those jobs. It's been a game changer for us. How is that going to continue? And thanks for your leadership.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. You're very kind. So I mentioned when I came into office that rural was really important to me, and especially rural economic development, making sure that we have more jobs out there. The state of Utah employs about 23,000 people, a little more than that, and that means those are good jobs. And so we've been pushing really hard. The Lieutenant Governor, my Chief of Staff, John Pierpont's here, really working to see with all of our agencies, are there jobs that have to be on the Wasatch Front? And if not, let's open them up more broadly. Now, the other thing that we have available to us that we didn't 5 or 6 years ago is we have remote technology. We have Zoom and other ways for people to connect, so they don't have to be there. So I'm really proud. We have over 6,000 of those jobs are now in rural Utah, so more than 25%, which is really remarkable in the grand scheme of things. In fact, I have to tell you, I won't tell you who it was or where it was, but I actually had some elected officials get mad at me because we were moving too many jobs into their area, and the state was paying a little higher than the county was paying. And they said, stop doing this. You either need to take those jobs out of here or lower the wages. Now, I don't think their citizens would be very happy to hear that. So I thought we must be doing something right if people are starting to complain about us sending too many jobs out there. But I will tell you, we just doubled down. We just went back to every one of our department heads and said, we want you to go through the list again. Now that you've seen we're post-COVID, you've seen now that we can do more remote, are there more opportunities for us to reach out and make a difference in those areas? So stay tuned. We're not done, but we think there's more to do. Thank you.
I want to stay with that for just a moment, Governor, and I'm going to use my place here to ask you a question to follow up on that.
Yes, please.
The inland port, there's a lot of buzz about that, and a lot of buzz here in Iron County because we're in the running, I guess, to be one of the satellite ports of that. Where does that project stand right now?
For sure, yeah. So we've been working very closely with the inland port, and I feel better right now about the inland port than I have in a long time. We've had some leadership changes there. Some of you know Ben Hart, who was with the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. Ben is now leading that effort with the inland port and really helping them to focus on the infrastructure piece and getting that right. If any of you have driven out past the airport where the inland port is, you will see that it is growing like crazy. There are all kinds of, Amazon has a whole bunch of new buildings out there. The great things are happening out there. But to me, this is the piece that is going to make the difference, tying in these rural areas, giving us that opportunity to have more advanced manufacturing. Cedar City is a great example of that. There is rail access in Cedar City, and that's why it's spoken of so highly as one of the hubs or spokes, I guess, as we're looking at kind of that hub and spoke model for the inland port. And I just had an opportunity today to go out and fly over the iron mine out there and see the great things that are happening there. We had a ribbon cutting for a line, one of the great manufacturers here, aerospace manufacturers, and so we're seeing that growth, that manufacturing growth happen right here. And let me assure you, as things continue to deteriorate with China, we are seeing amazing opportunities to bring some of those manufacturing opportunities back to the United States and back to Utah. And I feel very, very confident that we're going to be able to bring those right here. I just got a message from Dan Hemmert, who's with the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. He's leading that charge, said that they had a board meeting here in Cedar City this morning, and there was a presentation given about Cedar opportunities. They're really aligned with the board's new focus on regional economic development opportunities for the port. So that just today, those conversations are happening. I'm glad you followed up. Thank you, Tim.
Someone wants to talk about is this you? All right, so come on up and ask your question here. Because
tell us your name.
Tell us your name. And I'm curious to the answer on this one too, Governor.
So my name is Callie Ostermiller, and I was just wondering a bill or something that you're excited about or passionate about in the 2023 legislative session.
Wow, thank you, Callie. Oh my gosh, that's like asking me which is my favorite kid. So
what's your favorite Halloween candy?
Well, Reese's. That's an easy one. This is a harder one.
Mine is all of it.
There's so many, all of it. That's a good one. There are certainly probably some bills I'm not excited about, but the ones that I'm most excited about. Look, we have been trying to tackle some of the biggest issues facing Utahns right now. And when I ask Utahns, and I'm pretty sure my list will be close to yours, what are the biggest issues that we're facing? They kind of center around growth. So the first one is housing and the price of housing. And I always tell people, like, in Utah, we want our kids and grandkids to live near us, right? That's part of our ethos. It's part of where we are. We don't want them to live with us, and there is a difference. And at the rate we're going with the housing prices, we'll have no choice. I've got 3 kids right here at SUU, 3 of my boys, and I want them to be able to afford a house, right? So we are working on legislation right now with legislators, the president and speaker directly. We are working with the League of Cities and Towns, trying to figure out how we can get because I say this all the time. This is economics 101. It is supply and demand. There's more demand than supply, so we need supply. Now, what's happening right now is the Fed, by raising interest rates, is trying to destroy demand artificially. That's not real demand destruction. It's artificial demand destruction. If we make interest rates too high, then nobody will want to buy a house, and the price will come down. Well, yes, that's true, but that's a terrible way to do it because they still want to buy a house. They just can't buy a house, right? So what we want to do is increase supply and find ways to do that. So I don't know exactly what that bill is yet, but it's the one I'm most excited about as we get closer to that. Now, there are several others that we're working on. We still have more to do around water, and I'm really looking forward to that. Some great ideas that are out there around water, and you'll see more of that. I was just down in St. George meeting with their water district, and I have to tell you guys, I'm so proud of the work they're doing there, and we are aligned. We're going to be focusing on reuse. We're going to be focusing on conservation, getting more for less with the water that we have down there. We're going to be working on some bills around higher education, better alignment with higher education, more funding for our trade and technical institutions in the state, which I think is absolutely critical, and more around education funding, and opportunities. So there's so many. It's going to be a great session. I tell myself that every year. I hope it's true this time.
A lot of buzz around the news feed these days about the Great Salt Lake, and what do you see coming in the legislature next year? And I'm also thinking that we will need to have some sort of a partnership with some federal agencies in that.
For sure. Yeah. There's no question. So we just got back a few weeks ago. We took a trade mission. A couple people here were with us. We went to Israel and to the United Arab Emirates, to Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And one of the reasons we chose those 2 places is that they are really good at living in a desert. They figured out how to use every drop of water more wisely than we have, quite frankly. And so that's an important piece of it. What we're doing in Southern Utah is going to differ a little bit from what we're doing in Northern Utah. Of course, the water in Southern Utah doesn't go to the Great Salt Lake, so that's a different issue. But people ask me all the time, are you worried the Great Salt Lake is going to dry up and we're all going to die in a cloud of dust? And I say I'm not worried. I was more worried a year ago, and they seem confused, and they ask me why, and I say, because you asked me that question, I'm less worried now. And I still get a confused look. And I said, look, here's the thing. A year ago, nobody was talking about this. Nobody cared about this. I mean, there were a few people, but very, very few. Now we've had a paradigm shift. I thought it would take 4 or 5 years. It took 6 months. And for many in the legislature, it took 1 day. The speaker came to me and said, hey, can we use a couple of Black Hawk helicopters from the National Guard? We want to fly all the legislators over the Great Salt Lake. And they did, and they flew out, and they came back, and they said, I get it. This is worse than we thought. Let's get to work. And so we passed 12 bills. Again, I was thinking it would take 4 to 5 years to get most of those bills passed. We passed them all in one session. So this session, there will be more of that. What we need is more funding. We did about $500 million last year, which was a record. We need more this year, more centered around. We've got the foundation set up. We know what to do. Now we just need to fund it more. And I have not been more optimistic about our ability to save the Great Salt Lake and solve our water issues here.
What are you hearing on that from our federal delegation?
Yeah, so the federal delegation is also aligned on this. And it's important to note that this is not a Utah drought. This is a Western United States drought. California, Nevada, Washington, Oregon, they're having as much drought as we are right now. So as this river dries up, as the Colorado River dries up, we know it's all of them. So that helps us because senators from California who happen to be Democrats with the Democratic administration, we're all working on this together, and that's going to help Utah.
All right, very good, Governor. Thank you so much. We're going to take our break for a half-hour news for some stations, but we appreciate that. There's lots more to come. We got more questions, so stick around. It's Direct Link. Governor Spencer Cox with you on the Utah Broadcasters Association Network.
Hi, this is Bob Larson with LSS Insurance. TV ads tempting you with cash back on your Medicare? Come learn about Molina's Medicare Advantage plans for 2023. Call 752-9493 or go to our website, lssins.com, for seminar dates and times. Don't get hooked by calling a national line. Call LSS where you can work with a local agent. Having a real person you can sit down with makes all the difference. For accommodations of persons with special needs at meetings, call 752-9493.
Good evening. I'm Bill Walter, KVNU News. The Great Salt Lake is shrinking. It continues to be one of the most visited locations in the Beehive State, but as the shoreline shrinks, people coming to see the biggest saltwater lake in the Western Hemisphere may drop off. The Great Salt Lake's northern shore lies in Box Elder County. Michael Sanchez, a spokesman for the Utah Division of Water Resources, said the Great Salt Lake continues to decline. He said currently the average daily surface elevation is 4,189. It dropped past the previous record low, 4,190.2 on July 3rd, and will likely continue to decline until mid-October. The lake contributes an estimated $1.5 billion to Utah's economy because of recreational opportunities, brine shrimp, salt, and magnesium harvesting. The wildlife is also affected by the lake getting smaller. Jim Lewin, a biologist for the Department of Wildlife Resources, works for the Great Salt Lake Ecosystems Program, managing the brine shrimp harvest on the lake. His team not only monitors the brine shrimp, but also researches and observes bird populations. He said the current salinity is at about 18%. If it gets higher, it could negatively affect the brine shrimp. He said, we are in the middle of crunch time. The Utah Jazz front office has hit the reset button and dismantled the roster following another first-round exit from the NBA playoffs. Quinn Snyder stepped down as head coach after 8 seasons. Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Royce O'Neal were traded as Utah stockpiled emerging players and future draft picks in their place. All these moves left the Jazz leaning on an assortment of unproven talent and first-year head coach Will Hardy heading into a new season. Mostly clear tonight and overnight, low in the mid-30s, sunny around 70 tomorrow. It's been to 68 today. For the latest news, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
This is the Sean Hannity Show.
Americans spent more on taxes in 2021 than on food, clothing, and health care combined, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So last year, once again, Americans spent more on average on taxes than they did on their food, clothing, and health care combined. Think about that.
Weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 on News Talk KVNU.
I see you finally got a new helmet.
I did. Bought it cheap online. Follow me. We'll turn off here.
I'm right behind you.
Watch the cars. They can be crazy.
Teddy! No! Are you okay? Somebody do something!
Was this young man hit by a car?
Yes, and his helmet is smashed.
It's a brand new helmet.
It's probably a fake. Fakes cause real harm. You're smart, buy smart. Brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council and the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
News Talk KVNU, 610 AM at 102.1 FM.
With Governor Spencer Cox, we are on the campus of Southern Utah University at the beautiful Southern Utah Museum of Art, which is a spectacular building. And Governor Tammy is here from Beaver. See, we've done Beaver, we've done Roosevelt,
Altamont.
We haven't done Cedar City yet. That's kind of weird because that's where we are. But go ahead, Tammy. What did you want to ask the governor?
So, Governor, you're very aware of our issues in Beaver County. Right now, we're most concerned, or especially concerned, with food security. We've got a Chinese company that owns a significant hog farm there. They're threatening to pull out and are going to, implement that closure. Not only that, we have animal activists that are actively and very aggressively attacking not only that company, but our community and our family agricultures. Do you have any advice or any way of fighting that, battling that?
Yeah, thank you, Tammy, and thank you for your leadership in Beaver County. It's been so appreciated as we've seen it over many years. So we've had lots of conversations about Smithfield Farms and what's happening there. For those that aren't aware, this company is closing a production facility in California, which then impacts the growers here in Utah. So they've decided that they're going to be closing down many of those farms and moving operations to the Midwest, where they have a meat processing plant there. We've looked at ideas, including trying to build a meat processing plant here in Utah. Sadly, the reason it's closing, as we talk to them, is it has more to do again with the environmental, not environmental, but the regulatory environment in California that's making it so they just can't keep operating there. These plants are incredibly expensive. Obviously, as a private company, they have the ability to open and close, do whatever they decide to do, but it impacts families, and it impacts lots of families in Beaver County. So we're looking for ways to offset that, looking for ways to keep these farms open, looking for ways to bring new jobs into Beaver County. I know you're involved in all of those. The other issue is one that's deeply troubling to me. There are these activists, and what they do is they break and enter on private property, and they take these animals and remove them from from these farms, and they do it in the name of justice. They in the environmental justice, animal justice, whatever it is. And look, it's not my issue. It's not. I disagree with them vehemently. But here's the thing: that's still breaking and entering. I don't care why you break and enter. You break and enter, you steal something. I don't care if your reasons are just in your mind. It's against the law, and people who do that should be held accountable. Now, unfortunately, I believe some of them were recently acquitted.
Yeah.
In a trial, and that's I fear is going to lead to more of this. And there is a way. Look, if you want to change the rules, you can do that, right? That's what governments are for. That's what legislatures are for. But you have to do it the right way. Clearly, they've been able to do some of that in California, which is why these companies are leaving. Again, I disagree with it, but that's the right way. It's the wrong way here, and we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that it doesn't happen here. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. You said you wanted students. We have Tom, who's here. He's from Ogden, but going to SUU. Is that right, Tom?
Yes, that's correct.
All right.
Welcome, Tom.
What did you want to ask?
Hi. So I was wondering, I know a lot of us students have sort of the same, like Jacob Marley's chains of worry over our heads with, we talked about housing costs before and student loan debt, and, everyone says, oh, now there's inflation too. You got to worry about that. So it's just like, are we ever going to be able to afford anything? And I'm just wondering if your office is working on something to quell those fears.
Yeah, Tom, thank you for that question. I sure appreciate it. And, I've been, as I've been traveling through Southern Utah, I've been meeting with students, and I'm always optimistic when I get a time to spend around students, but I also worry because you worry. And I see that in the faces and the questions of so many students. You feel like the whole world's kind of coming down. It's fascinating. So, I grew up as a child of the 80s. I was born in 1975. I remember in the early 80s, stagflation was a thing, late 70s, early 80s. Interest rates were 18%, right? We're up around 7%, 6%, 7% now, and heading north. And people couldn't afford to buy a home. People were worried. We had the Cold War. Any day we were hiding under our desk because the Russians were going to send nuclear weapons weapons down on us. We would practice that every time, every week, and all of these terrible things were happening all across the world. But there was always a sense of optimism, a sense of hope, and I worry that too many students are doom scrolling, as I like to call it, with social media and the bad news in the world being omnipresent around you. We could escape it. It wasn't with us every minute of every hour of every day. And what I'm here to tell you is, in every challenge that we faced as a country, we've come through it, and we've come through it better and stronger. And I have no doubt that it's going to be the same case here. And I honestly believe that there has never been a better time in the history of the world and a better place in the world to live than right now in the state of Utah. And I know I'm biased because I'm the governor, but the data backs this up. Like, there has never been a better time to get a job in the state of Utah. We have the #1 economy in the country, second lowest unemployment in the nation, some of the fastest wage growth in the nation. There are tens of thousands of jobs right now that are open and waiting for smart students like you to come in and make a lot of money and be able to provide for your families. Yes, we are working on bringing inflation down. We are working on trying to improve, especially the cost of housing. That's the big one that I mentioned before. You're going to see that it's already starting to come down in the state of Utah. You will see it come down more as we get more supply. The world is not going to end in a ball of fire anytime soon. I promise you that. And so I want you to be optimistic. I want you to be students. I want you to enjoy life a little bit. I want you to turn off social media and turn off, hopefully you're not watching cable news. That's just the old people. Don't do that either. I know it's my generation too, Tim, and it's terrible. Everyone should stop watching cable news forever, right now, and go enjoy life, enjoy this beautiful campus, enjoy the people around you, work hard, and I promise you, you're going to be successful. You're going to be able to have a family. You're going to be able to buy a home. We're going to help make that happen.
All right. Well, actually, it's coming up here. I want to, whenever I do this show, Governor, and that's why they probably don't ask me that much, but I always want to say, all right, let's get personal with the governor for a minute. So I want to ask you a personal question. Okay. This is hunting time. Yes. In the state of Utah. Is that part of your tradition? And are you going to get a chance to do any of this year?
So the answer, the first answer is yes. And the second answer is no. Oh. So the first answer is yes, it is part of my tradition. I grew up hunting. I grew up with a gun in my hand from the time I was 7 years old. We hunted every year, hunted pheasants, hunted deer. I'd go shoot rabbits with my friends on weekends. That's just what we did. And now I have no time for such things, unfortunately. But someday I'm going to get back to that. So thank you for the question.
Ashley is from the center spot of Washington County, Laverton, Utah. Ashley, what did you want to ask the governor?
Hi, this is actually also more of a personal question, but you've been governor for a year and a half now. Has it been better or worse than you expected? Has it been different than you expected? And do you want to run again in 3 years, possibly?
Ashley, thank you, and welcome from Laverton. So a lot in that question. It has been better and worse than I expected. That sounds like a politician, right? But I think it makes sense. Maybe the good parts have been far better than I ever expected. And people ask me, what are the good parts? Well, these are the good parts. I tell people I get to see them on their best days and their worst days, right? I get to see people when they're winning an award, they're cutting a ribbon, we're getting together to talk about some great things. And then I get to see people on terrible days. Someone's lost a son in Afghanistan. Someone's lost a dad with an officer who's killed in the line of duty. I get to be there to try to comfort people when really bad things happen. It's been what I expected. Of course, I was lieutenant governor, so I had a front row seat for what it was like to be governor, and yet it's been what I expected and a lot more. Other governors will tell you, I've had them tell me so I'm one of 3 new governors in the past 2 years in this country. So it's me, it's Governor Gianforte in Montana. We were elected together 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, and then Governor Youngkin in Virginia was elected last year. So there's just 3 newbies, as they call us. Now, there are 36-ish elections in November, governors, so we may see a bunch of new governors, but all of the old governors tell the newbies, they're like, wow, I wish you could have been governor before COVID. It was so much greater. Everyone kind of got along. I mean, we didn't, right? That's misremembering things, I think, a little bit, but certainly COVID had an effect on us that divided us in ways, and people are angrier. The extremes have gotten more extremes. Certainly, there's a hostility out there that is poisoning our country. And but again, I want to be very clear. It's happening less in Utah than anywhere else, and there is nowhere else I would rather be. So anytime I start feeling bad about myself, I literally talk to any other governor in the country, and I'm like, oh, this is the best. I'm so lucky to be here. Thank you for asking.
We've got a break coming up, Governor. Before we do that, I just want to kind of follow up on that. Yeah. Ultimately, when things are done here, do you ultimately see yourself going back at some point to Sanpete County?
I hope so. Yes. And by the way, we are back in Sanpete County every other weekend at least. So we're back there often. I didn't answer your final question, and that was, are you planning to run again? So I will answer that. And the answer is yes. I made a promise when I ran for governor, even though we don't have any limits on how many times you can run for office in this state, that I would only serve 2 terms if the people will have me. And again, that's the amazing thing about this experiment we embarked on 246 years ago, that we the people hold the power, and we give it to someone, and then they have to come back and ask for it again in 2 years or 4 years or 6 years. So in 2.5 years, I'll come back and ask the people if they're willing to have me again, and if they are, I'll serve for 4 more years, and that will be it for me. And then I hope to be back in Sanpete County.
All right. Thanks, Governor. We're going to take a 2-minute break. Stations, thanks for being with us. This is Direct Link from the Utah Broadcasters Association.
If you have ever driven down Main Street in Logan, you know that Logan has infrastructure needs. Hi, this is Dan Johnson, and I am your representative in House District 3, representing Logan, Richmond, and Cove. I pledge to work tirelessly to create solutions and funding to address these issues and others within our county. I'm Dan Johnson, and I would appreciate your vote in November.
Paid for by the committee to elect Dan Johnson.
Ride the bus to the North Logan Pumpkin Walk Thursday through Saturday, October 6th through 8th, and Monday and Tuesday, October 10th and 11th. The Cache Valley Transit District will provide zero-fare bus service from Greenville Elementary to the Pumpkin Walk at Elk Ridge Park. Bus service begins at 6 p.m. and runs till 10, beginning at Greenville Elementary. The CVTD bus is always warm, dry, and clean, and gets you closer to the entrance of the Pumpkin Walk. Have fun, be safe, and enjoy this year's North Logan Pumpkin Walk by riding with the Cache Valley Transit District.
I noticed that my central vision started to blur.
Figures that are usually straight started to distort and become wavy.
What are these little dark spots with blurring that I'm seeing?
There's a blind spot like a blob over my vision now.
Is my vision lost forever?
Why did I wait so long to see a retina specialist?
Retinal disease can steal your eyesight, but it doesn't have to. Patients who seek care from a retina specialist in a timely manner have the best chance of preventing vision loss due to age-related macular degeneration or diabetic retinopathy. AMD symptoms to look out for are distortion or warping of straight lines, as well as blurred or loss of central vision. Patients with diabetic retinopathy should seek treatment if they notice the appearance of spots or floaters or blurred and distorted vision. Don't delay seeing a retina specialist. It's worth the visit to save your vision so you don't miss out on life's precious moments, like seeing your grandchild grow up, enjoying a sunset with that special someone, or reading a good book. Visit seeforalifetime.org.
Where news and talk comes first. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
This is Direct Link. Governor Spencer Cox with us tonight on the Utah Broadcasters Association Network. All right, Governor, I finally got someone from Iron County and Cedar City. He wanted to ask a question, as also Mitchell did from St. George. So go ahead, John, what did you want to ask the governor?
Hi, thank you. Mitchell and I were just interested to know about the energy proposal that you will include in the future budget proposal, and specifically how much of the state budget will be devoted to expanding alternative energy projects, specifically within nuclear and geothermal within southern Utah, and if that will be a possibility.
Yeah, thank you. So energy's one of the questions of the day that we're facing right now. Again, I was talking earlier about the 70s and 80s and what that was like in those times. And of course, it was an energy crisis. The last time we've really had an energy crisis like we're seeing right now with the invasion of Ukraine, what's happened there, of course, Venezuela and other bad actors who have a tremendous amounts of fossil fuel. And so I think there's this general agreement and understanding that we have to do more on the alternative side. My position on energy has been very simple, and that is we should absolutely be developing alternative energy sources, but we have to do it smart, and we have to sequence it in a way that makes sense. What we've seen in some places, certainly California started to see this with some of the brownouts they were facing as they were trying to phase out some of their other energy sources. You have to have your baseline power. You have to understand the base load of power. What happens with solar, and we have tremendous solar projects here in southern Utah. We have amazing wind projects here in southern Utah, but wind and solar do not make good base loads because when the sun doesn't shine, the wind doesn't blow, you just can't store that energy very well. We're working on battery storage and other storage proposals. So we have to look at alternative forms for that base load. I believe the best alternative form when it comes to baseload power that significantly reduces carbon emissions is nuclear. And I believe anybody that's serious about carbon reduction has to be serious about nuclear. We saw California, we saw Germany, others who are trying to phase out nuclear, which is a huge mistake. Now, fortunately, most of them have reversed course and said, what are we doing? That's dumb. We're going to have blackouts, brownouts, rolling blackouts. That doesn't make any sense. So getting that sequencing right is so important. Now, there's an announcement this week, actually right here in the state of Utah at Brigham Young University, some new technology that is going to drive nuclear and use less water, which is really important. We know that the nuclear technology of today is so much safer than what they were building 50 years ago, 60 years ago, and so sadly, the permitting is such that it's very difficult to get more nuclear. So we've got to make those changes, and we're very supportive of that. There is a nuclear facility being built right on the border of Utah and Wyoming with Rocky Mountain Power, which will help us. So we're going to benefit from that, and they want to build some of those in Utah as well. Now, you also mentioned, or maybe you didn't, hydrogen, but hydrogen is a big deal. I'm forming a coalition right now with some of our other states. Specifically, we're working with Wyoming and Colorado, and I think New Mexico is going to join us as well to work with the federal government on some funding around opportunities for hydrogen energy development here. So that's something we're really interested in. The federal government has money to help us develop hydrogen, so we're going to work on that. And the last piece is geothermal, something I'm working with Governor Polis in Colorado on. We have awesome geothermal opportunities here in the state of Utah. So I think the future is really bright, and a significant piece of our budget is going to start going more towards those developments.
All right, we want to talk with Sam. He is also a student here at Southern Utah University. Are you from Cedar City, Sam? Or?
Yep,
okay.
I am.
All right, so I homered you a little bit. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Sam.
No worries. So Governor, we already touched on this a little bit, but I guess we can hammer it home a little bit more. But with housing, in your opinion, what can be done in a rapidly growing state like Utah to help first-time home buyers and people trying to find housing in general?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, and I think it is important that we keep having those conversations. So we're working on resources that are for different types of groups to buy homes. I'm really worried about the first-time home buyer. So when I talk about kind of the supply issue, it's also getting the right supply of the right things. And what is the role that government plays in making that happen? So sorry, I'm being a little opaque, but let me try to get a little more specific here. When you look at the cost of a house, there are kind of three different buckets that goes in. One is just the construction of that house, right? So that's the material that you use to build it. And we know that supply chains have been disrupted through COVID, China, other places that have made it hard. And so the price of lumber skyrocketed. Now, the good news is the price of lumber has come back down. So some of those building materials, but can we build houses cheaper? Are there better ways to do that? One piece of that is density, right? So if you can build more units on less land, it's going to be cheaper, right? If I have a piece of land and I can build 3 starter homes on it, or I can only build 1 bigger home on it, suddenly that changes the price to the consumer, right? So if I can only build 1 bigger home, it's not going to be a starter home for you and your spouse to move into with your first kid. That's just not going to happen. And that's traditionally been a local zoning issue. So it's government making that more expensive. Government says you have to have a lot that is a half acre or a quarter acre. So you can only build one house on this instead of 3 or 4, right? So when we do that, it just increases the price of housing. The last area is the way we finance housing. And we'll put that discussion aside for another day. So a lot of the question right now is around, okay, what kind of zoning is appropriate? We have a lot of what we call NIMBYism, right? That sounds for not in my backyard. So everybody wants cheaper housing. We know we need more housing, which means we need a little more density, but we just don't want it anywhere around us. We don't want it where we can see it. Let's build it somewhere else. I'm fine with that. I want it, but go build it somewhere else. Well, that's not great. And so we're having this conversation right now. I met with some officials from the League of Cities and Towns today over what can we do to encourage them to allow density in the right places. And those right places are places where we have infrastructure. The reason people don't want density near them is because it clogs up traffic, right? Or it just makes life worse for them. If we have good roads, if we have good sewer, if we have good water, if we have the infrastructure, if we have mass transit, then we can allow for more density in the right places, smart density, way that keeps the quality of life high and allows people like you to buy a house. That's really where our focus is. Now, there are some subsidies out there to help, and we're working with some companies in Utah. We've got some that are working in the Ogden area right now. They're working with teachers and first responders. It's a really great program where they pick up like the mortgage insurance. So for people that don't have a big enough down payment, they don't have to pay mortgage insurance on top of that, really lowering the price of housing. There are some groups that we're working with to try to do more of that statewide. So I would stay tuned for that. We have a Utah Veteran First-Time Homebuyer Grant. So there are certain pockets of help out there for different people, for first-time homebuyers, but not broadly. The only way to bring it down broadly is, look, if the government's just giving people more money, what does that do? That causes more inflation, right? If we say housing's too expensive, so we're going to give everybody more money to buy housing, well, the price of housing, if we gave everybody $2,000 to buy a house, the price of housing would go up $2,000. That's what would happen. That's just what happens everywhere. So we've got to be smart about this and drive this in a way that actually brings the price down.
All right, last couple of minutes. I'm going to keep it here. And I want to dovetail off that, Governor. I had a discussion today with one of your program managers from the Utah Homeless Services. I wonder if we could talk about that. What is the state doing to help those that are not housed and homeless? What efforts are we doing there?
So I don't make all the right decisions, but I made a really, really good one a year ago. And that is, we hired a homeless services coordinator for the state of Utah. One of the problems with homelessness is that there are a whole bunch of really good people, really good groups, really good institutions that are involved in homelessness, but no one was coordinating those. And so we have counties doing their things, and cities doing their things, and service providers doing their things, and church groups doing their thing. And no one was really coordinating these in a way that would make a difference and really drive homelessness down and get services to people that need it. And so I appointed Wayne Niederhauser, who was a former president of the Senate, to this position. He's been fantastic. He spent a year out there having meals with people experiencing homelessness. He's met with every service provider in the state. He's met with every county and city. He's doing all of the work, and he's putting together a plan. We're working with the legislature on that right now to better align those services. The legislature put aside over $50 million for deeply affordable housing. So this is for people just getting out of homelessness. We've put aside more money to help people not become homeless in the first place, right? Much better if we can keep them in their apartment, help them with the rent for a few months, so that we don't get them, we don't lose them into homelessness. More services for families. So we have more services than ever before, but we're just aligning them in the right way. Stay tuned. We're going to have some big announcements over the next couple months around homelessness and what we can do to keep people off the streets.
All right, Governor, one more question for you very quickly. Utah Tech and SUU play each other again in football here in a few weeks. Who are you pulling for?
Look, I have 3 kids at SUU. I love Utah Tech, but family first.
Got to be family first. Governor, thank you for your time. We hope you enjoy the rest of the time here.
Thanks, everyone. Great crowd. We should do this more often.
We should, and we will. In fact, we'll be back in a couple of months here with a direct link from the Utah Broadcasters Association. And thank you all for joining us. And any plans for tomorrow? Oh, the conference.
The conference. Yeah, we're going to be here all day tomorrow. So come to the One Utah Conference. It's going to be amazing.
All right. Thank you, Governor. We appreciate your time tonight.
You've been listening to Direct Link with Utah Governor Spencer Cox on stations throughout the state in partnership with the Utah Broadcasters Association. Tune into this station every other month for Direct Link.
Hey, that's one nice new bike, Josie.
Yeah, birthday present. Rides really smooth, too. Oh, and I see you finally got a new helmet.
I did. Bought it cheap online.
Love those side wings.
Hey, are you hungry?
Yeah, I'm starving. And need some water, too.
Okay, follow me. We'll turn off here.
I'm right behind you.
Hey, watch the cars. They can be crazy.
Teddy! No! Are you okay? Teddy! Somebody do something!
I called 911. They should be here soon.
Was this young man hit by a car?
Yes, and I'm concerned because his helmet is smashed and cracked open.
It's a brand new helmet.
It's probably a fake.
Please help him.
Fakes cause real harm. You're smart. Buy smart.
Go for real.
Brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council and the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office.
As our world changes, we're with you. News Talk KVNU Logan, 102 FM, 610 AM, the voice of Northern Utah.